the Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. To Zion. I was lost, but now I'm found. I'm a child of Israel. I heard the sound. You hear the sound. Please give me the strength to stand today. With my eyes towards the east, show me the way to Zion. I'm on my knees, laying my life on the line. I'm begging, please don't let me fall. Give me the strength. Place my feet, Lord, guide my path. Show me the way to Zion. I opened up the book and see. Hit the like button. Hit the like button, my brothers and sisters. Of your eye, including me. And through the tribulation, I know I must stand for a new heaven, a new earth. Show me the way to Zion. That's right, brothers and sisters, to Zion. I'm Elder Rick Koshiar of the Gathering of Christ Church here live with our weekly Sabbath lesson. Shabbat Shalom to the brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. Of course, Elder Lawyer, it's still overseas. He's over the pond. I think we did a switcheroo here. Elder Lawyer is over there in the UK, visiting the church and doing what he need to do over there. All praises be to the Most High, connecting with family. And while Elder Lawyer was going over the pond, we had Elder Shapat through the fire, through the smoke. Literally coming through the smoke that was here in Babylon a few days ago. Shabbat Shalom. Please hit the like button. It's great to see all my brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. We're actually broadcasting from our new studio. As you can hear, I'm going to do a tour down the line, but right now there's a little echo. We haven't soundproofed things yet, so just bear with us. Shalom to our brothers and sisters. Before we go in, let's do the Shemai. Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad.
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 Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Most High power is one.
Now, of course, as you can see, all praises be to the Most High. For those who don't know what we're talking about or don't worry about it, it tells us in the epistles, Paul said that we cannot speak in an unknown tongue unless we translate.
Right.
Okay? So, what we're speaking is the highest tongue ever throughout time. The highest tongue, the heavenly tongue. That was the original language in heaven. Okay? It's higher than the language of the hieroglyphs or the Egyptians or any other nation. Okay? And at the very end, the Most High prophesied that he would give us back our pure tongue, which is the ancient Phoenician Hebrew. All right? So what you see in the churches isn't speaking in tongues. I don't know what they're doing there, because even Paul stated you're not supposed to speak in some language that no one understands. It's babbling at worst, and, it's babbling at best, channeling at worst. Okay, I digress on that, okay? And we talked about that in the academy. Speaking of the academy, before we go in, brothers and sisters, yes, do I have a lesson for you all today? The capital punishment from God. The capital punishment from God. Man, I believe through the Spirit of the Most High, this is going to be one of those resounding lessons that many of you will come back to view over and over and over again. Okay? Now, before I go in, I would be amiss if I didn't announce that we have a new Hebrew and Bible Academy beginning June 25th. Okay? I hope you all are there. It's very, very inexpensive. It's cheap, actually. We've never gone up 1 cent since we began. 3 months of lessons, and it's less than 30 cents a day for the 3 months. If you were to count 30 cents a day for 3 months, that's all it is, okay? And it's more knowledge than in one lesson that any of you would have received all your lives in any institution, guaranteed, all right? Now, we'll be dealing with archaeology and history this academy, which means we're living in a world where the atheists, Satanists, and others are seeking to disprove or discredit the greatest book that have ever been compiled on earth, which is the Bible. So they're trying to flip dates, trying to make it seems as if Israelites never existed. Now that they cannot claim to be Israelites anymore, they're looking to do away with it altogether. So I'm going to take these 3 months, starting June 25th, to show beyond any shadow of a doubt that the Bible is true and there's archaeological facts that cannot be refuted concerning the validity of our people who are the children of Israel and through archaeology and history. Okay, we're going to also go into that lie they're trying to claim that Israelites never existed in Egypt. Because why? There's an Egyptian-Grecian conspiracy with the Romans also against our history. And I'm going to talk about that. They're reframing history during this awakening, knowing that we would one day wake up, knowing that we would come here. They were destroying and lying on our history the whole time. Egyptologist was actually the first Egyptologist, the father of Egyptology, folks, was a straight occultist and Satanist. The father of Egyptology is from France, folks. He's a Jewish guy from France. The one who so-called found the Rosetta Stones in an early age. And we all know that's a cover story. They straight stole the Rosetta Stones. And this guy was a straight Satanist, pervert, all of that. He's the father of archaeology or Egyptology. And I'm going to go into that because a lot of our people within the United States, mainly the conscious community, take this guy's felonious, satanic history as the gospel. So I'm going to go into him and more. this academy. I hope you're there. We're going to be going into the true dates of the earth, our time in Egypt. We're going to go into the rise of the Jesuits after the fall of Jerusalem. The rise of the Jesuits after the fall of our homeland, Jerusalem. The history that you've never received on this earth within 3 months. Listen, folks, I'm putting it all on the table. And guess what? Here's the best thing about it. The history I'll go into have been parroted by their own historians. So no one can claim that the Gathered of Christ Church is making this up or it's a conspiracy theory. They know the truth. Okay? Go to historytimes.org. I'm going into history and archaeology like you've never seen before. Please be a part of this because your work helps us expand and also get this truth out to many people. I'm in a studio now that is, as you can hear the echo because there's no furniture in here right now. And we're going to be doing shorts. We're also going to be doing green screen behind us. Okay. Update reports. And also Elder Shaphat is going to step it up with the news like never before. He's going to be live and sometimes he'll be remote. Okay. And also what we'll do with Shaphat, we discussed this. Once a month, right, we're going to do what? An article where Shaphat give you an article that's on gatheredofchrist.org as well as historytimes.org. An article of what to look for and what news quantifies what this church through the Spirit of Christ have been prophesying even before the streets. Now, do you remember this was said years ago? We were on the streets. Now, the fulfillment of that statement, that prophetic time where the Most High had us on the streets, the fulfillment we're living under right now with Bill Gates and others, Elon Musk and others in the path to the mark. So we're going to have articles once a month. And we hope through the articles, brothers and sisters can understand the importance of our lessons, what we've spoken prophetically up until this time through the Spirit of the Almighty, as well as the importance of getting in that academy. That's right, and hearing real-time prophetic news. Okay? So, historytimes.org, please enroll. Help us. We'll help you. Let's finish this, folks. And speaking of finishing this, our lesson today, the capital punishment of God. Now, why am I going into the capital punishment of God? Right? Well, we all know God is just. He's fair, equitable, forgiving, gracious. But there was some activity on earth the Most High could not tolerate amongst his people. Some activity that led to laws under the Levitical priesthood for capital punishment. Right? And I'm going to go over a few of these because some of this, the world powers have given the evildoers and the perverted of our society carte blanche. They've also given the world, they've given them political asylum and political protection to attack and not be attacked. Right? So there's no defense against those who the Most High once shielded society from. See, but that's one level. Right? That's just one level. When it goes to the capital punishment of God, it leads to the final judgment. Folks, there's a death that's worse than death. When we pass over, that's death one. And I'm going to go into the capital punishment of God today to have us understand the judgment on this side and the judgment that leads to the other side. There's more than one death. And I'm going into the capital punishment of God so that brothers and sisters can be assured, regardless of the evil that's going on in this earth and the wickedness aimed towards our people, no one gets away. No one get away. There's no getaway. So I'm going into this and we're going to quantify it according to the Bible. Because some people ask, well, this evil, look at what's going on. Now they're coming after our children. Folks, let me hit you with something. They've always come after our children. Okay? It's just blatant at this point. It's non-concealed. Now that we understand who we are and the laws of God, knowing what? The moral line that's been set in this earth by God with us as the people, they can no longer play between the lines anymore. They can no longer conceal themselves amongst the righteous without getting exposed. So because of this, you know what they're doing? They just coming straight out and saying, well, okay, you got us. Now stop us. They've always come after our children, folks. We're just cognizant of their evil devices now. We're checking out CPS and others and examining that on a whole nother level. Oh yeah, speaking of CPS, I'm going to also be going into Oprah Winfrey. How, and guess what? And I have proof of this. I'm going to say alleged here. That she's been a shield for these evil, demented perverts who've been targeting our people, not just here, but in America. But in Africa. She's been the mammy for Esau, for Amalek. She's been an attack dog against men, and on top of that, a cover for the perverts. And I'm going to be talking about that. Okay? I'm going to be talking about how they've used Oprah Winfrey to destroy a whole generation. I'm going to be going into that. Keep your eyes peeled to what's going on here. But let's jump right into it. Elder Shapat. All right, let's go. You have that? You have it? The capital punishment of God. Let's go to 2 Peter's real quick, 3 and 9. And I'm going to pull it up here, Shapat, so that they can see it with us.
All right.
And thank you, Elder Dell and Elder Yarak, who I know are working behind to make sure we keep the comment section clean here. Thank you all for all your service and the work you've done since the beginning of this work. I cannot thank you and your family enough. All right, let's get it. Let's get it here. 2 Peter's 2. No, let's go to 3, right? All right, here it is. And let me pull it up here. The capital punishment of God. Let's read 2 Peter 3 and 9. Now, brothers, Christ gave the keys and the knowledge towards his kingdom to Peter. And he said, on this man, on this rock will I build my church. Which means the true path and doctrine of Christ is complete. There is no debating the true path or doctrine. There's no debating it. Everything Peter set up is the doctrine, period. So you see all these different denominations out here debating, well, is baptism good? Is it bad? Or should we do this or do that? If they have so many questions, how can they be experts concerning God's word when they're still debating the tenets that was given to Peter? No, you don't need to become experts or teachers. These people who are debating these things need to sit down and learn. It's simple. If you have questions on whether or not baptism is a prerequisite for the kingdom, you shouldn't be teaching. And this is why Christ made it clear, because he knew that Satan would do what? He would muddy the waters, confuse people through time. So he made a constant stay on Peter to say, this man, Peter, will I build my church. Any doctrine outside of what Peter set up is Satan. Period. Okay, period. And I'm going to go into that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit if I have time today. So I love going to Peter because Peter, he gets right to the point. And after Christ was taken in a cloud into heaven, while the disciples beheld him, since Christ been on the throne, right? From that day forward, Peter, during Peter's life, was the number one on earth in representation. No one can build a church anywhere and not establish it on the work that was given to Peter, period. And this is how you weigh any ministry or any pastor out there. If they tell you the law is done away with, you can eat anything you want or do anything you want and you're covered under grace, that's a lie. He's leading you to capital punishment. That's a lie. You don't have grace to intentionally defy God. That's not what grace is for. So according to history, and you're going to learn a lot of this in the academy, those who would say that they can sin purposely and be forgiven were under the title of Nicolaitans. Nicolaitans was a faction of Israelites who joined the church, who Christ said he hated. Nicolaitans was still fornicating, still doing what was wrong according to the Roman law, and claiming that Christ, and then tried to claim in the church Christ covered their sin intentionally. I mean, their intentional sin with grace. They were covered by grace, but still sinning intentionally. Let's read it real quick.
Let's start at verse 3.
2 Peter 3.
2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3.
Go ahead.
Knowing this first,
that
there shall come in the last days scoffers.
What is a scoffer? Folks, scoffers are people. Scoffers are people who are always negative, seeking to discourage. They're always complaining as if their way is the way. And when you look at what they're doing, it's absolute zero. But they always can sit back and critique. Right? Mm-hmm. They become Bible connoisseurs when it comes to examining everyone else, but are fruitless in works. So these are people that's always complaining, and that become their work. They think their position is to sit back and become the critique of all doctrine because they know better than everyone else, but yet does less than who they're complaining about. And they're only out there to do what? To frustrate others. Negative, Debbie Downers. You try to duck when you see them coming. because they have nothing good to say. Every time they come, they're coming with something that they think is wrong, because that's how they view life. And the sad part about it, that's how they view themselves. Scoffers cannot ever lead with something positive. Yeah, I got to talk to you about this. I got to talk to you about that. This is wrong. That's wrong. Scoffers. Like, brother, sister, the sun came out today. The Most High still brings rain. Food, shelter, raiment. He woke me up today. He woke you up today. And this is why Christ says, if your eye be evil, your whole body is evil. If you look and see everything through a negative eye, everything is negative. But if you view things through a grateful eye, an appreciative eye, you begin to love, live, and appreciate. And take full advantage of every second the Most High has given you in the appreciation. That's why he says, if your eye be evil, your whole body's evil. The only thing you can see is wrong. You know why? Because you're wrong. You got to turn that thing around. You need to turn that eye around and look at yourself with all that. And fix yourself before you can see clearly to fix someone else. That's scoffers. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You can never get work done with scoffers. Because at every turn, they're complaining. At every turn, something is wrong. At every turn, they want you to stop everything you're doing to operate through their evil eye. Let's read it.
Walking after their own lusts, verse 4.
Come on.
And saying, where is the promise of his coming?
They'll start frustrating people. This should have happened by now. That should have happened by now. Come on.
For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation.
Come on.
Jump down to verse 9.
Let's go to 9.
The Lord is not slack concerning his promise.
And see, I wanted to start this lesson off with encouraging brothers and sisters through everything that I'm about to show. Christ is not slack concerning his promise. Everything he said we'll get, we're going to get. Everything that was promised to our fathers is ours. You have to believe it. You have to know it. Therefore, in that mindset, you can set your heart aright. See? Focus solely on the end of things, on finishing. Because he is not slack concerning what he promised us. He promised my forefathers, our forefathers, your forefathers, everything. This world wasteth away, as the scriptures say. Our world is the world to come. And that was a battle in the womb of our mother Rebecca. That was a battle in the womb, Jacob and Esau. When you read the legends of the Jews, that legends, Ginsburg Legends of the Jews, with the two babies fighting in the womb. And Jacob said in the womb and conscious to Esau, you can have this world. This world will be filled with lust, sin, evil, death. And I'll take the world to come. I'll take the world. See, they didn't expect us to read these records, folks. And what I'm mentioning, you'll never hear in the Christian church. The legends of why there's racial tensions in the earth. Jacob said in the womb, through conscience, Esau, you can take this world. My world will be a world everlasting. No death, no sin. So he knew of the capital punishment, the judgment to come. Right? Come on, read it.
The Lord is not slack concerning his promise.
Come on.
As some men count slackness.
As some men count slackness. What?
But is long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish.
But let me tell you, the Most High in Christ don't wish that any of us would die through this. Perish. Read.
Not willing that any should perish.
Come on.
But that all should come to repentance.
That all should come to repentance. Change. Right? Now, he's not slack concerning his promise. Something is coming. And I'm going to talk about that. Right? Mm-hmm. There's certain laws in the Bible that was totally clear when it comes to capital punishment, right? Now, in order to break this down, and please hit the like button for me, please. All right? In order to break this down, let's see what is Webster's definition of capital punishment. The capital punishment definition, right? Let's see. I'm going to break this down in a nutshell, right? A matter of fact, this is from the Office of Justice Programs. I'm laughing because you got the unjust establishing laws for justice.
Right.
Right? Capital punishment. Now, according to this world, capital punishment refers to the process of sentencing convicted offenders to death. Serious sentencing convicted offenders to death. That means they've been tried and convicted. Or it says for the most serious crimes, capital crimes, carrying out that sentence.
And that speaks to the point that Elder was mentioning, that the Most High sees certain laws that, there's less grace attached to breaking those laws because they're heinous crimes.
Yeah. Like, for instance, there was a girl. I'm going to show you how it was. So let's weigh it. There was a young lady who killed someone. Oh, it was a sister. No, this wasn't a sister. We heard it on the radio the other day. And that's what it got my mind going. Mm-hmm. This was a white woman who killed someone outside of a store in a major area in Chicago. And she got 3.5 years back out on the street. There's those who are under what we would call pedophilia, right? Under these laws, that's not a capital punishment for that, even though taking the innocence of a child is synonymous to killing that child, who would have had an entirely different life if an adult didn't violate them, male or female. Right? And on top of that, crime is capital under Satan's system. It's currency. Because I can get someone behind bars to work for free. Why kill a slave? So what I'm saying in a nutshell, there is no absolute line on when or how capital punishment should be dubbed out or executed within our system. At least under God, it was absolute. There was no gray lines. There was no middle ground. Here are the things which automatically, here are the sins and the actions that leads to capital punishment. Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to go through a few, right? Mm-hmm. Let's go to Leviticus 20 and 13.
Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 13.
Now, hold on. Before you get there, Shapat, 1 second. Let me straighten this out, because I want to make sure my brothers and sisters see this. Leviticus 20 and 13. Let's read it.
If a man also lie with mankind.
Now, stop right there. If a man also lie with mankind. Now, mind you, folks, the law of union is a holy law. In the beginning, the Most High made male, female, and said what? Be fruitful and multiply. So there was a purpose with coming together for union, or what they call today intimacy. The Bible says, if a man also lie with mankind, read,
as he lieth with a woman,
as he's supposed to lie with a woman, defying the reason for union, defying God's reason for union. Why? No life can come through it. So this is not bashing or attacking anyone. This is the Most High bringing forth a clear moral standard. And you have to understand why this was established. It was a moral standard that leads to what? People continuing. Okay? Why would he create life so that man can make a decision to discontinue it? So he had a line made, a moral standard in place. Not because he hate anyone individually. That's why he said in Peter's that some count Christ the Lord's slackness, that he's slack concerning his promise. But no, he command everyone everywhere to repent. So it isn't personal or against someone's personal preference or lifestyle. Right? It has nothing to do with not liking a person or anything like that. It has everything to do with a moral standard in place for life. That's all. You know, and guess what? That's at its, I would say that's the base of it. That's the base of it all. Right? So it says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, read.
Both of them have committed an abomination.
That means both men have committed an abomination. They broke a moral law. They broke a moral law. It has less to do with how they were brought up, what happened to them, or whatever the case is. Now, we can all sympathize and feel sorry for whatever happens to us, growing up. We've all been scarred in some form or fashion growing up under a satanic society. Now, we can sympathize with it all and feel sorry for one's experience. But the Most High, he doesn't make an exception because something happened. The law is the law. And if we continue to break the law, what?
They shall surely be put to death.
They shall surely be put to death. That was a capital punishment in the Old Testament. It's not what anyone feel personal. If anyone understand the reason for intimacy to bring forth life, it would be God. It would be God. So it was a capital punishment for that. Why? Because if this becomes something celebrated or the norm, what would happen? Eventually, the world would turn from life to death. And who brought forth the spirit and seed of death? The devil. Now I need y'all to understand what I'm saying here, because I'm not going to keep this on just that particular sin. It's way greater than that, way deeper than this. But I need y'all to understand we're living in a world right now, in America in particular. Now, I grew up in a time where the red, white, and blue flag was the flag of all flags. And it represented something for those who settled colonies and began to create what we see here today, right, as America. And it was what? Family, God, apple pie. Not to say that evil wasn't operating amongst their circles, but it wasn't as blatant as it is today. Now I'm going to ask you, in America, do you see more American flags or rainbow flags? I need y'all to think about that. I need y'all to think about that for a second, because we can argue whether or not blacks had some hand in celebrating the red, white, and blue. Okay? That's a separate argument. But what it represented for the people who was behind colonizing, it had everything to do with keeping a moral standard in a country with clear defined family and moral values under God. Do you see? Now I'm gonna ask you all in the chat. Do you see more American flags or pride flags? I'm gonna ask you all right now. So what they've done in a nutshell, folks, they've given political asylum to death. They've protected those who hate God, and they've given them political protection to attack family. And like I said earlier, folks, I'm not going to stay on this, but I need y'all to understand something. I don't have any personal gripes or hatred towards anyone who's struggling with sin, especially if it was a child who had no power over a grown man or woman violating them. Yes, regardless of it, I understand that when you deal with the child or harm a child, it destroys their perception and their view of life going forward. So I can feel for that. Christ even feels for that. But he's still calling these people to go back to where it happened and repent, because there's still a judgment for it. Don't take pride in what happened. Don't take pride when you know that it was criminal, the violation that happened at a young age. Don't take pride in that. You're protecting the predator by taking pride in it. So when Christ says go back, when he says repent and call every man to repent, is to go back to when the sin came in and realize it shaped your path. It put you on a course separate from God. And what he's saying is, I'm not here to kill and destroy you for this. Get back on the path. Go to that point, right? Get the counseling, the help, and support that you need to face that moment that you hid away as a child. And get back on the path. So I'm not going to harp on this because I understand. And this what I'm talking about right here has been a hidden sin in our community for years. And it's a double sin because a lot of this is allowed and protected within black churches. But there's a capital punishment. No one gets away. So let's talk about it. The Bible says, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's one of what? The 10 Commandments. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Leviticus. Let's get it.
Leviticus 20:10 or the
No, I'm going to get the next one. The Bible says, thou shalt not, and it tell you right here, right?
Exodus.
Let me get it. If a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon him. Mm-hmm. Now, if you remember, even though there's a lot of, I would say, suspect science that comes with some of these programs they have out here that's aimed towards destroying our people in particular. When it first came out amongst white men, we were told that AIDS was a gay disease, predominantly amongst the white community. And the Bible says what? Their blood shall be upon them. A matter of fact, read the 14th verse.
Mm-hmm. And if a man take a wife and her mother.
That means a man deal with a woman and her mother too. Folks, there's a lot of things we're talking about here in Leviticus that happens in our community. Not just our community. You know, hey, amongst white people, the term kissing cousins and all that, the Jerry Springer saga before Jerry Springer was going on, the trailer park action. Where it's okay, I don't have an automobile to get too far from here, so we jumping on everything moving with hair. Be it mother, sister, cousin. See, this is why the Most High made clear, defined moral laws that we must bring back. This is why the Most High had capital punishment, because you would have one guy think in his mind, you know what? I'm going to get with the mother, especially in a time that we're living in under now, Shapat, with broken homes. With broken homes, folks, you would have a guy get with the mother just for the opportunity to get to her daughter. I'm speaking to somebody right now. Because if this man doesn't have no vested interest, well, he's not blood with anyone in that house. So he'll get with the mother so that he can now deal with the younger version of her while she's at work. You see why the Most High had to bring forth capital punishment? Huh? See, I don't understand. This is why the church have lied to its congregation by perpetrating a fraud with the doctrine the law is done away with. Because I believe a lot of these pastors know what's in this law and can't teach it, knowing that this activity is really a norm amongst the congregation. So now they're going to say, well, don't go into the Old Testament. That's that bad stuff. We got to deal with the grace of Christ. Because if they went to that law, they would actually understand how far we've fallen from grace. Because everything we're reading here is what the pastor is hearing in his councils, in his marriage councils and all that, and on all of that. The pastor is hearing this on a regular basis to the degree he become numb to it, not realizing that there's a clear defined line on how to correct this by showing the laws which lead to capital punishment. So when you read the law, it says, if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness, and they shall be burnt with fire. Folks, that's the same judgment for a witch. King James, the great King James, the Israelite, the black man, I'm going to say it again, he wasn't a white homosexual like they're promoting. He says, listen, we need to burn witches at the stake. They need a double death so that their spirits doesn't escape. All right. If a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire. Read.
Both he and they.
Both he and they. Because there's another part of it, not just to eat the wickedness of a man. In our society, we deem to think automatically the girls were innocent or were violated. Not all the time. Not all the time. Because there's scenarios where a man gets with a woman or a wife, and while mom is gone, the daughter comes on to him. But no one likes to talk about that part. The daughter's wearing certain things around the house, knowing when mom is gone, he can be drawn away in his own lust. So this is why under the law, there was no conversation about who was right, what was going on while I was working, who was wrong. There was no conversation. When it found out this man dealt with a woman and the child, the whole place burned with them in it. See, you have to realize the Most High isn't impartial. He's not going to just be on the woman's side or the man's side in anything. That's something that they have us arguing about here in this world. Okay? So back then, there weren't no grace. Burn the whole house down, at least it's sending a message to everyone else around here. You do this, your house is burned down with you in it. There's no trace of this sin or this evil action that can destroy a community. Capital punishment. Right? Folks, let me ask. How many of you, now that I've broken it down like this today, how many of you didn't know that this was in the Bible? And you know what I'm speaking of right now is prevalent, a norm in our community. How many of you didn't know this? Put it in the chat if you didn't know this. Right? I want to see it. We're going in today. How many people didn't know? Let me hear it. Okay, I knew. That's good. Who didn't know? I want to know who didn't know. Someone said me. I didn't know that. Look at this. We should have known. We were going to church every Sunday growing up. We should have known. Look at that. No, I didn't. Look at all these people saying that they had no idea that these were laws in the Bible that kept civility and a moral code within our communities. You wonder why our communities are utterly destroyed, decimated. Look at all these people saying they didn't know. That's a shame. That's an indictment on pastors in our communities. Look at this. They're still going. I didn't know this. Someone says, I've learned this since being with the Gathering of Christ Church, all praises. Look at this. Thank you. Thank you for putting that out there. And there was a capital punishment with what? Let's go more. Let's go more. Leviticus 15.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 15. And if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and ye shall slay the beast.
And ye shall slay the beast. Bestiality. And folks, bestiality was known in Egypt. When it came to those certain quirks amongst the Egyptian elite, they would do all types of vile, sinful, lustful coming together, even with animals. But back then, there were no films and all that, but they had clubs for this. Elite secret clubs. And guess what? Our God made it clear we are not to do the sins of the Egyptians. And now in America, you have a thing they have out there called OnlyFans, where it depends on how much you pay out there. A girl will do anything on camera. Now, then we all know, thou shalt not commit adultery. What was adultery according to the Bible? It's different than the adultery in our current systems today. Number one, there was never a law in the Old Testament that would allow women to divorce. Okay? Whether we believe it's right or wrong, under the old law, women had no right to divorce. A man would give a woman a bill of divorce if she violated the contract of marriage. Why? Because he took her on to actually continue his name and legacy. A woman takes on a man name and or legacy. So he would give her the bill of divorce. He's taking his name back. That's what the bill of divorce was for. Marriage had intention and purpose of a name for legacy. So there was no thing where a woman can give a man a bill of divorce. A man had to give a woman a bill of divorce. A contract with the family he got her from. So a lot of you probably didn't know that. It's crazy in our community, 80% of divorces are actually filed by women. But I digress. It's a whole nother conversation. And it can be no fault. Well, guess what? There's no such thing as no fault divorce in the Bible. Okay? It has to be for a reason. Now, the original definition of adultery would be if a man was to lay down with a woman who belongs to another man. That's the biblical definition of adultery. This woman is physically married to someone and he lies down with her. That was the example in old time. Got it? Now, he says, you shall surely be put to death. Why? Because look how much this happens and in the world in general, not just our community. If it's allowed, when someone finds out, it leads to someone else dying. See? Whole families die because of this. Somebody comes shoot up a whole block because someone is dealing with their girl or whatever the case is. I know it's vice versa today, but the Most High had a clear capital punishment so to save everyone else on the outside of their choices. No one else had to die because of these people. You understand? If they sinned, they died, and that sin didn't affect or spread throughout the community. Infest the community. It stopped, the sin began and stopped with those who were doing it. Now, folks, I'm not going to say that I'm an advocate for bringing back the capital punishment. That's not what I'm talking about. But let me ask you, if we had these laws as a deterrent in our community, would our community be better or worse? And I'm not advocating for this because I understand the grace of Christ. No, I'm just bringing this forth to show how far we've fallen from grace. If we had these particular laws, capital laws, as a deterrent, would our community be better? There's no deterrent for murder in our community, knowing that you'll probably serve 5 years, 3 years. There's no deterrent for adultery or fornication or something like that, because what? Who's going to take that to court? Someone slept with someone else. We hear that every day. That's a regular thing in our community on the rumor mill. It's not even a law that's warranted to be heard before a judge in our current society. Look, everyone said it would be better. And we would what? We would have to be accountable for our choices in life.
Man and woman.
Man and women, a man and a woman under these laws would have to be accountable for their choices. Okay, so it's not like, okay, I didn't know any better. I was young or dumb, and this happened back then. No. If we knew that death was at the end of a choice, no gray area, I don't care how old you are, right? So I wanted to talk about that today. And this is just on a community level, folks, but now I'm ramping it up. The capital punishment of God, folks, is even more stringent and harsh than the capital punishment of the Old Testament. Some people ask, what do you mean by that? It's a fearful thing to fall in the hand of the living God. Because what they don't teach you here, and Satan didn't tell you about this, under his satanic system and his so-called experts of authority of theologian. What they don't teach in churches is the fact that there's 2 deaths. And the second death is worse than the capital punishment that was doled out in the Old Testament. So we're going to move this from personal experiences, personal sins, and we're going to now put a global perspective on this. Nations. Because as individuals, everything I've mentioned, as long as you're breathing, as long as we're breathing here, under grace, we have an opportunity to jump back on the road regardless of what we've done in the past and still get kingdom.
It's that promise.
That was that promise. You're right. So I'm not putting it out there to judge anyone, because the Most High knew that we would be under a satanic system with no knowledge of ourselves and be born under sin and normalize it as the norm, because what? We've seen it operating in our community without judgment. So we thought what? We thought it was normal. We thought sin was normal. So, so even Peter said that in times past, God winked at our ignorance. We were ignorant to the fact that what? Our forefathers was accountable to a law. So anything we didn't know according to the law, like I'm bringing out now, the Most High winked at. He says, okay, I'm going to turn my eye on that one. But now command everyone everywhere to repent, which means you know now. So change it now, and guess what? I'll start your journey from there. This is what being born again means. That you cannot be judged on former sin that we've done under ignorance. That's what being born again is. See? So that's why I said, I'm glad we're not up under that some of those old laws, because none of us would be here streaming, teaching, or listening. Okay? That's the grace of Christ. Right? Do me a favor, because I'm going into the nations right now. I got some good stuff, but okay, we got a few people in here. Hit the like button for me real quick, because now we're going to go into the nations. The nations now. The capital punishment from God. And what I'm going to talk about in particular is that nation, Elder Shaphat, who have hid themselves in plain sight. Who have hid themselves in plain sight. Who am I talking about? The Asians. You know, Kamala Harris, who was born with an Asian mother, why they have her as vice president right now. With the guy that she's operating with, that's just almost on life support, walking.
Falling.
If that doesn't represent Babylon the Great is fallen, literally, I don't know what is. Where the whole world, they trotting him out there to be laughed at by the world. And I said, there's no way that, guess what? We would have never supported or got behind Kamala Harris. That's why she got blasted in the primaries. So they found another way to move an Asian in position with a frail man there. But I digress. They done got over on people again. They done don't. Where am I going at here? Yes. Shamala Gapalan Harris. Oh yeah, just throw a black name at the end of that, and that'll do it. That'll do it up for you. Yeah. Go on, girl. Make y'all think it was the first black American. They go on mama right there. But it's not about Kamala, the East Indian, the Asian. The Babylonian. Huh? Oh yeah, they tricked our people again. First they tricked us with Michelle, if you would like to call her or Michelle, with the Go Girl thing, and now they tricked us with an Asian. Right? But I digress. Why am I going here with the Asians today? In the capital punishment from God. Because this is the particular nation that have always operated against God's people, being used as a tool of Esau to destroy us in plain sight without us actually recognizing it. Right? We're going to talk about it real quick. I'm going to show you how this ties all in with the capital punishment of God. Right? Give you all some dates here. Yeah.
California.
Yeah, California Gold Rush. Now, I'm going to show you all this, brothers and sisters. Now, usually I go into things like this in the academy, but I'm sure you're going to support the academy. But I'm going to hit y'all with a few things today. And today is going to be a lot of aha moments. Oh, I got it. The California Gold Rush. Another thing about the Asians, they're the only people out there, predominantly in the earth, that's a superpower, who worships the dragon out front. Celebrate it without any pushback. All of their parades, all of their galas, everything, there's a dragon attached to it. They worship the Satan outright. All Asian religions are the original Babylonian religions worshiping the serpent. This is why they're using them to destroy us. What better people to align against the children of Israel than those who made an allegiance publicly and politically with Satan? Going back to the gold rush of California, I'm going to drop it on y'all today. Right after chattel slavery, folks, it was our people in America, Judah, and predominantly the Gadites, the North American Indians who were here. But our people in particular, blacks who were freed from slaves, had the expertise for all what? For all the trades that could progress America going forward. You cannot build anything, clean anything, cook anything, graze anything, including animals. We were the original cowboys.
Make anything.
Make anything.
Blacksmiths.
Blacksmiths and all that was us. We was making the jewelry, all of that. So guess what, folks? They could not progress unless what? Unless they would utilize the slaves within the United States. We were holding Esau over the proverbial back barrel. So what did they do? They made an alliance with China to bring in the Asians to mine the gold to slide us, so that we couldn't take gold for ourselves and build for ourselves. They started an immigration program to bring in Asians. It's called the California Gold Rush. Oh, you thought it just started under Biden? The California Gold Rush. Let's read it, Elder Shapai.
The California Gold Rush.
Come on.
Between 1848 through to 1855.
Now, who were the predominant workers, brothers and sisters, between 1848 and 1855. Let's read it. Come on.
Was a gold rush that began on January 24th, 1848, when gold was found by James W. Marshall at Sutler's Mill in Coloma, California.
Coloma, California. Come on.
The news of gold brought approximately 300,000 people to California.
It brought who?
Approximately 300,000 people to California.
Come on.
From the rest of the United States and abroad.
And abroad. So why would they need to bring 300,000 people in, folks, with all these slaves who were working in America? Hold up now. I need y'all to check this out. This is why the Most High is going to bring a capital punishment, because they've always politically barred us out of being able to do what? Work out of the condition. They've always redlined us or stopped us from actually being able to rise above the status quo. Right? And when you go down here, it talks about Hawaii, Latin America in late 1948, all of these different places, right? But folks, why do you think they're being a little loose on abroad? What they're not telling you is the majority that came from abroad were Chinese. In an agreement with China, many of them came over into that area of California and settled in California and parts of Mexico to mine gold from our people. Huh? And this is why when you look at Mexicans and others in different parts of California right now, they kind of look Asian in certain areas that are not black, because the original so-called Mexicans and all that were black. They were like me. Okay. Some of them had like the stringy hair or the hair looking like Egyptians a little bit, but they were still dark like me. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to connect the dots with you on how the people of the dragon began to intermingle to actually be a political stop for our people who they knew were from the tribes of Judah, who would one day rise. What better way to come up, right, during the gold rush than to let slaves mine gold? You know, we would have mined gold better than anyone, but guess what? A lot of those rocks would have continued in family. It was like, no, we can't do that. I would rather ship them from China than to give these blacks anything. Huh? Now, not all, because the intermingling went both ways, right? It was Issachar dealing with Asian women, and you had Asian men to some degree, not as many, dealing with, that's right, Issacharite women. And they would have whole communities and build communities out of that and continue to work and mine. So now we're filling in we connected the dots for you all to show you how they've continually socially engineered a plan to keep us subservient in a what? In a destitute state with no way of getting out, no way of escaping. Okay. Let me bring you up to date now, brothers and sisters. This was so great. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, a long struggle for freedom. Free at last, free at last. Boy, how they championed the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 hastened the end of legal Jim Crow. It secured African Americans equal access to restaurants, transportation, and other public facilities. It enabled blacks, women, and other minorities to break down barriers in the workplace. Ain't that nice? 1964, we're free at last. But what happens to stifle this achievement? You know what happened? Let me show you. Look at this now. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. A year later, after they done gave us what we died for, they passed a bill a year later that would stifle any accomplishments made up until that point by doing what? They couldn't give us nothing by ourselves. They made an Asian Act. The act formally removed de facto discrimination against Southern and Eastern Europeans. 1965. Right? Can someone say Ukrainian rights? Eastern Europe? They immediately gave the rights that would have been to us to Southern and Eastern Europeans as well as Asians. Just hit that seat. Who knew that? Who knew that? They gave us something in 64 and took it away in 65 because then they would begin the black and brown thing and make it where anything that we fight and die for would go to these people. That's cold-blooded, ain't it? No, they told us nothing of these acts being passed right up under the noses of civil rights. Huh? And guess what? Get Ecclesiastes 1 and 9 for me, please. Let's get it. And this is why in the academy we're going to be going into history and archaeology, folks. History is very important. So that we don't fall for the same evil political intentions that we've always fell for throughout history. And they're still doing it to us.
Mm-hmm. Same playbook.
Look at that. They don't even change, brothers and sisters. They haven't even changed the playbook. Think about it. George Floyd, George Floyd, George Floyd. No justice, no peace. We're going to burn things down. And as soon as Biden get in position, he does what? He roll out an Asian crime bill to protect Asians. After it was the George Floyd being killed unjustly got him in. They use the same playbook. Let's read it.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9.
Come on.
The thing that hath been, it is it that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done.
Come on.
And there is no new thing under the sun.
And there's no new thing under the sun. You know why Esau doesn't have to keep switching things around and do something new? Because what he done in the past still works.
I'll read on. 2 more verses.
Yeah, come on.
Verse 10. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new?
Guess what, folks? They've studied us. They know us. They're like, listen. Unfortunately, these people don't know who they are. They don't have no moral line according to their forefathers. So because of their ignorance, we're going to just keep rolling out the same playbook, dusting that old playbook off we did since Rome, and just shine it up and repackage their captivity and destruction to them. And you know what? They'll eat it up. There's nothing new under the sun. They're going to why do something different if what they do over and over again works against us? And with our people being willing participants. Come on.
It hath been already of old time, which was before us.
Come on.
Verse 11. There is no remembrance of former things.
There is no remembrance of former things. And see, and that's the problem we have. You can't see they're doing the same thing over and over again. And because the history has been taken from us, there's no remembrance of it. So we're only dealing with our current status and our current issues, not realizing we're repeating the same actions over and over again. And through each generation, losing more and more. That's why the Bible says, Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Therefore, they're going into captivity. Hold that. May 2021. Here's what the new hate crimes laws aims to do as attacks on Asian Americans rise. Now, he couldn't do anything for us. But why are they giving Asians political protection? Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, the children of the dragon, linked with Esau, folks, have been given what? An open coffer financially to destroy the children of Israel. And they know eventually our people who are ostracized, left out, homeless, and all these other things, when our people start to realize that everything for us was given to them, our people will have no recourse but to get food and others from the people who have it in our community. So it's going to lead to our people robbing and doing certain things. And guess what? Just to survive in a community. So they put up, so they've put an easy deterrent in for the future. There's no people out there harming Asians. That's a lie. This is a future bill that they can utilize if our people began to go into these places for food. They're going to call it a hate crime. They're going to have to go into these businesses within our communities, which are owned by Asians, to survive. So they've placed what? Laws to protect them, because the elite came together in Psalms 83 and say, we're going to conspire against the children of Israel. But of course, they understood there would come a day where our people would begin to wake up. See? That we would begin to wake up. So the Asians are saying, China is saying, well, listen, if we flood the neighborhoods with our people, what's going to protect these blacks, Judah, and these others from coming against the people we're establishing over there to replace them? So the deal is, we'll do this, but we're going to need political protection from the United States. We'll help get rid of them for you, but you're going to have to protect us, because you know when Judah stand up, all falls down. So the overseers got together and said over the government and say, well, I don't tell you what, don't worry about it. We'll write a bill so that if they do wake up and try to come against you, we're on your side, even though our people built America. We can't get a hate crime bill. Folks, you have to realize the hate crime bill they gave us. It's only a hate crime if they can what? If they can prove that the N-word was used. So kill us, destroy us, regenify us, drug us out, all of that is okay as long as no one says the N-word. Come on, man. Brothers and sisters, you know y'all wrong. You know y'all wrong. Hit that like button. We're about 500 likes down. Just hit it if you haven't hit it. Look at this here. A hate crime bill for Asians a year after our people put him in office. See it? Nothing for us. And of course, you have the Asian woman and her husband next to her. Right? Right in the White House. Making sure Jim Crow Joe do what he have to do right here. Huh? Hit that like button for me, brothers and sisters. Come on. So where does this lead the capital punishment of God? Huh? Well, it's in a place now where there's no hope or help left for our people politically. And God said that our people will be faced with these challenges at the very end, where the Most High would need to bring eventually a capital punishment. Right? What is the concept of it? I'm going to go into it in a moment. But before I go there, right? Before I go there, no one gets away. Right? Let's go and get Psalms 83 for me real quick. Right? 2nd Esdras 15. Right? We're going to start at Psalms 83.
And 1.
Yes, sir.
Psalms chapter 83 and verse 1.
Okay.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Most High.
So now David was praying that the Most High keep his silence, for him not to withhold his protection on him. Right? Understanding geopolitically how all the other nations were conspiring to destroy our people, our nation. So this is what happens when you understand there's no hope in the country or nations we've put our hope in. See? It's time for us to do what? Look beyond these nations and seek our God for protection, like David. Or keep on going to the same man who have destroyed and killed, regenified, and made you sick for help. So David wasn't seeking to negotiate with the enemies or make a political alliance in hopes that the enemy would stay friendly or have the Israelites' best interest at heart. David knew better, that we're on our own. He knew this. We're on our own, folks. So he sought God, the God who destroyed Pharaoh, who led Moses into Egypt and to set our people free. He asked the Most High to make some moves from heaven, to protect us from the heavens. Folks, that's the only protection we have. That's our saving grace. If it wasn't for the Most High standing up, sending angels and all that to protect us, the nations would have destroyed us by now. And now it's time to seek our God again. It's time to seek him again. Because, I mean, think about it. We're going to have the same people out of their minds who are ignorant in our communities voting and all that for the same people who've always hung and destroyed them. And if you want to know who are the oppressed, and I'm going to go into the scriptures on that for a second. If you want to know who are the oppressed and who are the benefactors under this society, folks, all you need to do is look at, in general, what people as a whole benefited and are benefiting after the pandemic, and what people as a whole are suffering after the pandemic. You do that and you'll understand the plan the whole time.
And the code was disproportionately affected by COVID. Who were they?
Disproportionately affected. That's the code word. In every sense of the word, disproportionately affected. But at the end of that, other nations became what? More emboldened. Financially increased in status and representation. This is what David is talking about. You can't trust them. You cannot trust them. For lo, read.
Verse 2, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
Come on.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Come on.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
And they have consulted against thine hidden ones. Who's hidden? We are. Our people have no idea that we're the children of Israel. Right? And I have no problem with us for the sake of political solidarity, seeking to identify ourselves as a collective simply for self-preservation. So when I hear people say black and all these, I can understand the concept because it's a marker for solidarity on a people who are getting attacked. So I do understand it to some degree because no other people are identifying as black. But being black doesn't tell us why we're here and why the other nations are doing this against us. Because the other people who are coming over here, even though they don't identify as black, right? They still are under the banner of black and brown. And yet have been sent by the serpent to attack a people of color too. So we can't identify strictly with this black or brown thing anymore. We have to say, okay, biblically, what's going on here? This is a spiritual attack against God's people. Who are these people? They're not black people. They're the children of Israel. See? And this is why the Most High has gone, there's capital punishment for individuals, but I'm going to show you how he moved this. The capital punishment on nations. Number one, because every nation would be behind politically, making all the capital punishment sins a what? A regular promotion amongst our people to be destroyed. They will promote adultery, fornication, perversions, same sex, all of these things knowing it's going to affect us. So the nations have set us up for capital punishment. See? Now the Most High is going to move that capital punishment off of us and say, well, no. If I don't stop these people, no flesh will be saved. They're now incentivizing through Hollywood and others all the sin that leads to death on our people. And China and Asia is complicit with this, and I'm going to show it. Let's read.
Verse 4.
Come on.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
And that's the importance of coming back to knowing we're Israel. Because they're not seeking to attack black people. They know we're the lost tribes of Israel. So all the nations have come together and said, let us cut them off from being a nation. That's why anytime an opportunity came for us to actually help ourselves, United States government, Rome, being led by Rome and the Jesuits, stepped in to bring other people over to get what we would have gotten if they wouldn't have allowed immigration. Let us cut them off from being a nation, read.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
Make sure their children don't remember a thing. Make sure their children aren't taught that they're from the lost tribes of Israel. Make sure their children are taught that they're Egyptians or Africans or anything outside of an Israelite. Because when these people find out they're Israel, they're going to understand a law or a code comes with the name. And therefore, our tricks aren't going to work on them like they used to. See? Our tricks can't work. Because now, if we try to incentivize sin, fornication, perversions amongst them, they'll understand there's a capital punishment against it. See? They'll begin to get back on code with one another. And through that, these people will receive protection from the heavens to oppose the dark forces that have always had these people under derision. See? So now it's spiritual warfare. If we can get them to sin, then the lower gods we serve take precedent. So listen, we'll tell them Pan-Africa, go to Africa, Egyptian, be whatever you want to be. Don't tell them they're Israelites, because with Israelites come a code, a law that would have them understand our true intentions against them, like their King David knew. So if they can cut us off from being a nation, then they can keep our children under perpetual servitude. Right? Mm-hmm. Let's go down. Let's go down to cut them off from being a nation. Mm-hmm. Where it says the houses in possession. Let's get it. 12. Let's get it.
Psalms 83 and verse 12.
And here's all your nations, and Asians are in. I'm going to get to the Asians in a second. Mm-hmm. Let's go straight to 12. Who said what?
Who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of the Most High in possession.
As long as they think there's someone else, will be allowed to enslave their children. Will teach their children that what? It's God's plan for them to serve us. That they were born to serve us. See? We'll give them a pat on the head. We'll give them a few shekels. And make them comfortable in servitude. So their whole plan is to keep Israel from us, the name of Israel, so that we're never on code according to that law I went over earlier. We'll get our communities together, and by doing so under Christ, the heavens would begin to fight against them for the children of God like he did against them while we were in Egypt. Huh? Y'all getting it now? Who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. So now we see the plan. So why are they flooding America with Asians? Don't forget, this is the same plan they used in different areas before. They did this years ago, decades beforehand, folks. Decades. They did this in the UK. Soon as the Benjamites, because Benjamites are warriors, boy. The Jamaicans and the West Indians, soon as they began to multiply, like it said in Egypt, over in Europe, over in England, they started flooding the UK. All of that with Asians. That's their secret political weapon against us. Why? Because, folks, these were the original worshipers and builders of the Tower of Babel. They're bringing back the most ancient religions and demons that they've worshipped. They're bringing them over into our communities to spiritually war against us. And obviously, folks, it's working. It has worked. Okay, not just them. They snuck in Islam, which is really Persian mythology from the Tower of Babel. They snuck the Ishmaelites in first, started building mosques, but they brought demons with them that would make strongholds on our people in the communities to pull us from under the hedge, which is the word of God, the Bible. They started splintering us in other religions, starting with Islam, and now they're coming in with the reinforcements. So now, so we talking about what they're doing, but check out what our God has done. He's like, oh no, this is unfair. Wake up the lion. Wake up the Lion of Judah and proclaim on this earth with a word that the children of Israel are back. Roar like a lion throughout this earth. Let the 12 tribes stand up against this satanic conspiracy against them. Huh? So the Most High is doing some moves up in heaven, right? Oh no, he's not going to let his people get stomped out. He's like, well, nah, they're doing this. Wake up the people. Have them leave those conclaves of perversions and sin called the so-called Christian church. And he's starting to send the Spirit through that Bible and move our people out of the way of the judgment that's coming on what? Kingdom Hall of the Jehovah Witnesses. The Seventh-day Adventists. A straight satanic cabal led through Jesuits. Okay? He's saying, you know what? I'm going to wake up my people at the same time. And then I'm coming after Asia. Since they're trying to use Asia, the Most High has prophesied the fall of them. I'm going to Esau's helper. Esau's helper is the Asians. And for years, they flew under the radar. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get 2nd Esdras 15. I'm going to grab it here. Hold on. 2nd Esdras 15. No, we're going to start at, well, you can start at 29. We can do that. I really want, let's get straight to it. Okay. 2nd Esdras 15, and let's go to 46. Mm-hmm. Let's go straight to the Apocrypha, and this is why the Apocrypha is so important, folks. At the very end, every time you look, something happened for us. Since the 1800s, they would bring in their secret weapon, the Asians. And I used to wonder, what's up with this? Every time there's something for us, there's an Asian bill or a gay bill. No one could tie these things together, but God can. They have always been Esau's secret weapon. They were Esau's secret weapon, believe it or not, against the samurais of Japan. The samurais of Japan were Israelites from the land of Samaria. That's where the word samurai comes from, Samaria. The lost tribes went into Japan, folks, and parts of China. They went to Vietnam. They went to Cambodia. All these other areas. When they were going against us in the Vietnam War, that was our people Rome was attacking, America was attacking. The Chinese aligned themselves with the American government and Rome against Japan because it was our people who settled there. That and more you will see in the academy. And not only that, folks, I'm going to show you the records where I'm going to tell you the Jewish historians know what I'm saying is true. Wait till I show you all in this academy. But anyway, every time there's something for us, this pops up. And let me make it clear. Personally, I have nothing against no race of people. I don't have anything against Asians. Okay, I'll make it clear. Because the Most High have called everyone everywhere to repent. But God is warning Asia. It's not me that you have to worry about any repercussions from. Okay? I'm a servant of Christ, a minister I was born here to deliver the word. I didn't understand when I was coming up what I was born for. But now I understand. It's just a mouthpiece. So you have nothing outside of talking to fear, outside of me talking to fear from me, Asians. But what I'm talking about, you better take heed and get from under the capital punishment that's coming to Asia. Because the Most High is not going to allow you to continually, through stealth, attack our people, politically and otherwise. Okay? The gold rush, you came to take any money that would come from slaves who built this country. Okay? Civil rights, 64. 65, you came and said, no, they got civil rights, but we're going to always be there to do what? To stifle any progress. And that's right. Put us in their communities and we will stifle their progress with our satanic gods, as well as the food we serve, as well as politically stifling them all together by taking the properties from them. See, other nations and red states don't have to worry about this. See, in red states, they'll tell you, listen, you can come over here, but you better go, y'all better go build some areas that don't belong to us that the government give you, and you can build your own communities there. But you're taking nothing from us. But not our people. Look at Chicago right now. It's been flooded by immigrants. You think that's a coincidence? Look at Philadelphia. Look at New York. These are places, especially in New York, with a black mayor. Tens of billions of dollars are being given to asylum seekers? Or are they social mercenaries against the people or against the areas they have been what? Socially engineered to. Folks, this is a strategic plan. This is why God is saying what? Let's read it.
2nd Ezra chapter 15 and verse 46.
Come on.
And thou, Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon,
Who is the partaker of the hope of Babylon. Read.
and art the glory of her person.
And art the glory of her person, which means what? Asia is connected with America. That's right, all the way to the end, folks. Everybody talk about, well, China owns the debt and all this. Listen, there was an agreement on both sides. Yeah, you take our debt, we'll give you the communities, we'll give you the people. As long as you don't interrupt or step on our feet, we'll give you the children of Israel. You go through and finish what we couldn't, because now they're talking white supremacy and everything. They see us. They don't see you. They can't see you. Okay, they can't see you. So we'll take their finances and give them to the letter people that'll be over the social programs in their community, and then we'll bring you over to destroy the infrastructure or take it over and regenify it. And that's our agreement for you to come over. And on top of that, you get political asylum. So that if these people, when they begin to starve and become homeless, if they come against you for some coin or some money or some food, we'll say it's a hate crime and throw them in jail. And if they kill one of you, it'll be capital punishment. But guess what? Like I said, they've slept on the capital punishment from God. So it says, and thou, Asia, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person. That means China got rich through America. Everything that America invented, China made a smaller version of it. If they make computers, China makes the microchips. See? They're all in bed together. No jobs here for the people who built the country, including white Americans. But yet all the jobs are shipped over to China to make the goods. So that American money is now incentivizing a silent army who's looking to what? Circumvent them. Babylon the Great is falling, where your money goes out to incentivize an army to come in against you. Ukrainian war, and others. 47.
Woe be unto thee, thou wretch.
Thou wretch. God is calling Asia a wretched, a wretch. Read.
Because thou hast made thyself like unto her.
You made yourself like unto America. You celebrate the place that have enslaved God's people, knowing that they're God's people. Then they began to make what? They even built themselves a replica, a similitude of Wall Street. And all the areas celebrated within America, they built a small similitude of that in their country to celebrate what? Their union to come against the people who built America. Folks, we literally, my forefathers, our people in America, that's right, we're talking about blacks. We're talking about Judah. Another term they're putting out there, foundational black Americans. We literally built Wall Street.
Every sense of the word.
Every sense of the word, with our own hands, built Wall Street.
And the finances, why it was there in the first place.
Yeah. Read.
And has decked thy daughters in whoredom.
You even turned over your daughters who was once dainty, feminine. You even turned them over. That's right. Into what? Whoredom. You see Asian women in America, they aren't anything like their mothers were, their grandmothers were, who were shy and just walked behind the man. They sitting there with spiked green hair and a nose ring now. It's crazy. They got Asian feminists in America. Read.
And has decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee.
Come on.
Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions.
So China followed America that is hated in all her works and inventions. America is the only place that's pushing the pride flag, folks, on the world. And now China is following this. Every place that China go, they instill some of these same implementations that used to what? And they're used to do what? Totally destroy societies. If you can demoralize the people first, it won't be long before you can actually take over the land they're living on. So you have to understand the political tool at work here. China comes over to Africa and they make an alliance to build the infrastructure. Years ago, while Trump was in office, right? That happened. And then we hear, while Biden is in office, Kamala Harris go into these same countries and say, you must push the flag and the pride to receive financial aid from America going forward. You think that's a coincidence? Think about it. Look how the activity there, putting certain people in position in our community, have totally decimated family in our community. Have totally decimated and moved the moral line in our community. And now you think it's a coincidence that right after they pushed that first, Asians are taking over in our community? Well, on a international scale, on a broad scale, we're showing you how they're not just going to do it to a community. They're seeking to do it to a whole country now. Or many countries, excuse me, because there's many countries within the continent of Africa. Many countries where predominantly our people run or have sustained for thousands of years. Now, they're not going over there into the Arab immigrant countries and letting them know and telling them that they must take on the pride flag. And the Arab countries have the same laws in place against the activity as Africa. Huh? This is why the Most High is saying, well, okay, it's time for me to step in on the dragon. Mm-hmm. Thou hast, 48, read it again. Come on.
Thou hast followed her that is hated.
That is hated. Read.
In all her works.
In all her works.
And inventions.
And inventions. Read.
Therefore saith the Most High.
Therefore saith the God of Israel. If anybody from Chinese or whatever out there, if you don't know his name, he's the God who freed the children of Israel from Egypt. And his name is Ahia. He's the God under our Christ, Yeshua, whom the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. He's the God who hurled the serpent or dragon you serve in China. So I know you have an axe to grind against our God. And an earth against his people. So what will the Most High do? Because it was not too long ago we hear about some disease coming from China into America. Well, the Bible says, a matter of fact, hold that in Galatians 6 and 7. This is what the Bible says. It was not too long ago we hear about a disease that came from China, and it coincidentally, disproportionately affected the same areas that they're regenifying and sending immigrants over to today. Coincidence? There's a lot of coincidences going on, but I don't think it's a coincidence more so myself. Biblically, prophetically, it seems as if it's Psalms 83 to me. A conspiracy against these people. God's people in the inner cities. Galatians 6 and 7, read it.
Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked.
You can't mock God. Read.
For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
Whatever you do comes back to you. Read it.
For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption.
Whatever you sow, if it's wrong, it's coming back. If it's corruption, it's coming back. See? So speaking of Asia, and guess what? For y'all who don't know, there's some people out there who need to get their geography together. Okay, maybe they learned it from their teachers, but they're wrong. Okay, China isn't Moab. That's ridiculous. They're talking about Moab and Ammon is Chinese and Japanese. No, get your map together, your geography. There's no reason not to know who China is today. You know, with Google at your fingertips. All you have to do is Google Moab and Ammon and you'll see that bordered Israel. It's the same people over there today that were there back then. Moab and Ammon are the Palestinians and the Jordanians today. They're Middle Eastern. Lord have mercy. Because why? If you get that wrong, you get end-day prophecy wrong. You don't understand China and what they're doing and how they're being utilized by Esau to destroy us because you think they're an entirely different family. So you done throw all the end-day prophecy off by thinking it's Moab that's coming over here. Get yourself a map. And stop throwing off prophecy. If you don't know who China is according to prophecy, you don't understand Gog and Magog. China are from the what? The sons of Japheth. Japheth. They were the original Europeans and Asians before Alexander the Greek came on the scene and began to war. Before Alexander the Greek, you had Zepho, who came into Kittim and began to war and took parts of Italy that was originally part of China, part of what you would call Japheth territory. This is why Europe is called, listen to me clearly, that's why Europe is called Asia Minor in the Bible. Because it was Asian land before the Edomites took it. Lord have mercy, get in the academy already. I'm still hearing them say that Chinese and Japanese are Moab and Ammon. And guess what? And the reason why I'm stating this is because it's not anything I didn't teach or learned before. In my 20s, I thought that until I actually did some historical research and was like, well, now it makes sense. Now I can understand what's going on with China because under this other group I was under, we put China in an entirely different family. That's like trying to untangle the prophecies of Israel today by relating them to the people who claim to be Israel today. Let's read it. You reap what you sow, China. So what's going to happen to China? Read the 48th verse. Read it.
49 or 48?
48.
Second Esdras 15 and 48.
Yeah.
Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore saith the Most High,
Therefore saith our God, the God of the Hebrews, read,
I will send plagues upon thee.
I will do what?
I will send plagues upon thee.
So the plagues that was meant for bad against us, China, eventually is coming, that's right, to you. So you think those little labs and all that in your area was only going to affect our people? Well, no, they're in your area. A highly condensed, overpopulated country you live in. See? See, we don't know, we don't have the tools to fight against you, but our God has them. And it's prophesied. What you meant for us is coming on your people. You're not just going to circumvent and destroy us politically and regenify us in these communities. Without what? Without our God stepping in. It's been prophesied. Y'all have heard this. Y'all have heard it here. Stamp it, clip it, download it. They cannot hide no more. The plagues they meant for bad on us will come on them. That was a conspiracy to do everything they're doing against us right now. Whether they have drugged us, whether they have meant death on us, guess what? We made it through the so-called plague, and our people still stands. That's the power in God's people. We didn't die fast enough for you, but yet, guess what? We're still here. By the grace of our God. I know y'all wondering, how is it we're still here after that and we're still fighting against you spiritually and otherwise? Well, guess what? You've had a target on us in aligning yourselves against us since slavery, since the gold rush, flying under the radar. But now our God have you on the radar. Our people know who you are now. It came right from here. You cannot hide, Asia. We got you. And the Bible says, I will send plagues upon you. And what else?
Widowhood.
Widowhood. That means what? Men who lose through war. You think you're ramping up an army that's going to come in at the very end in Africa and others and align yourself with your technology against to destroy us. But guess what? Widowhood. That means your women will know the loss of men if you come up against the children of Israel. Huh? Read on.
Poverty.
Poverty, what you wished on our people. Y'all coming into our cities, building buildings in our communities now. And our people are sleeping on the streets. Under your carefully crafted plan. Under your carefully crafted plan. So if you think this guy is running things, you got another thing coming. See, and this is how you wield the real sword. No weapons formed against us will prosper. We don't need physical weapons. The knowledge of who you are and what our God will do. Because why? Once we put it out there, our God, the God of Israel, must confirm his power in us, in our word. See? Only thing we have to do is reveal it to the world what they didn't know. And now our people will understand how to interact with the political enemy that have come in to destroy under the radar. That's number one. So we begin to strategically work around your plots against us. But then as we speak the word, the Most High sends forth his angels to confirm it. You can no longer hide. This is why they didn't want this apocrypha in our churches, folks. I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, read, famine, sword,
and pestilence,
pestilences,
to waste thy houses with destruction and death.
to waste your houses with destruction and death. Because why? Our people are just seeking to survive at this point. We don't know that you've always conspired to destroy and take over the places we built. So since our people have no defense for ourselves, our God will begin to fight our battles. And everything that you've done for us, done against us, the Bible says God is not mocked. Well, if you sow destruction, it comes on your people 100-fold. So your little labs or whatever you're doing, think about everything you're cooking up. It's not for us. Eventually, some of us is going to fall through ignorance and believe what you're selling. But what you're cooking up are the plagues that will plague your own people. And eventually, that dragon you celebrate each year, let me show you what comes of him. Let's go to Revelation 20. Let's wrap it up. Revelation 20:1. Let's read it.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven,
Come on.
having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand.
A great chain in his hand. Read on.
And he laid hold on the dragon.
On the what?
And he laid hold on the dragon.
And he laid hold on the dragon. Hold on. Let's do it. He laid hold. Hold on. Let's get it. Because they love outright celebrating their madness. Let me get it here for you. And guess what? They celebrate this on a regular. They outright, look at this. They outright worships the dragon in plain sight. Los Angeles Daily Times. Golden Dragon Parade for Lunar New Year closes LA Chinatown streets.
That brought it full circle, ain't it? With the gold rush in California.
Yeah, it started off with the gold rush, huh? Now look, they outright with the devil celebrating Satanism. Let's read it.
And he laid hold on the dragon.
On the what?
On the dragon.
On the dragon. On that what?
That old serpent.
That old serpent.
Which is the devil.
They worship the devil outright, folks. That so-called idol Buddha, that's just a front. They worship Satan. They're Buddhist monks and all of that. And let me tell you, folks, you want to know what be happening at Shaolin Temple and up there with those Buddhist monks and all that? Do you want to know what happens with that? Well, you can connect that with, you can look at that of what happens with the altar boys in the Catholic Church. Oh, yeah. I got historical proof on that. Be in the academy, I'm going to prove it. You think they just up there, chopping wood and bringing water to old Sensei. No. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old what?
That old serpent, which is the devil.
Which is the devil they worship.
And Satan.
And Satan.
And bound him 1,000 years.
When our Christ returns, the little serpent you worship, who've given you power to conspire against us with the Romans, well, your daddy will be bound for 1,000 years in hell, prison. As the children of Israel take our proper place on earth, under our king, that worm you worship will be bound. Read.
Verse 3. And cast him into the bottomless pit.
Come on.
And shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more.
So now Satan, Lucifer, will be bound with Azazel and all the angels who fell pre-flood. That's where they are, folks. They're underground. They're being held in the spiritual realm of torment until the judgment. So now their daddy gonna be down there with them. Read.
Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled.
Come on.
And after that, he must be loosed a little season.
And he will be loosed a little season after that for the final judgment. Read.
4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them.
Come on.
And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yeshua.
Those who did what? Those who suffered by not taking the mark of the beast. Those who withstood your technology. Because China is in bed with what? That's right. The Roman Empire and America to create a system of a casteless society. It was them who came up with the microchips and all that, with Bill Gates and all that, to bring forth Satan's plan for a casteless society. Come on.
And for the word of the Most High.
Come on.
And which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands.
Read.
And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years.
So we will reign on earth as a people, while your God, Satan, your dragon, is bound. Folks, if y'all don't know it already, you can believe it or not, China have already taken all the territory that belongs to them in the deal with America. They haven't told you that yet. The Red Dawn that people have been waiting for, where Chinese army going to come in and take over America, has already happened. But it happened a different way throughout the political construct. See? This is how you can take a country without one person dying in physical battle. In physical battle. But there's other ways of warfare. The battle came biologically. So the Red Dawn they talked about happened, but it didn't happen through a war like they told us it would. Right after the biological hit, they're everywhere. Huh? Let's read. Come on.
5. But the rest...
No, let's go down and see where that worm is destroyed now. Matter of fact, let's read it. Let's read it. But the rest. 5.
But the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
This is the first resurrection. This is when the dead in Christ shall rise first. Where the bosom of Abraham is emptied, and all those who follow the Most High in Christ from the beginning will live in eternity on earth, beginning in Christ's kingdom.
Part of those promises.
Part of those promises which man calls slack. Now the righteous is living again. Read.
6. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection.
So we must make it through the first resurrection.
On such the second death have no power.
On such the second death have no power. So are you saying there's more than one kind of death, elder? Yes, Peter and the disciples knew this. The righteous understood this. There's one death out of this world that makes us that goes into the spiritual world. Well, the second death is where even the spirits die. See? That's why it says, fear not man who can only kill the body, but fear God who can destroy your body and soul in hell. So the second death is not just your body dying while your spirit moves over into a habitation. The Most High has another death that came with the sin of disobedience. He had to make another type of death that could destroy and kill the spirits who brought forth disobedience to earth. That's why it says we must make it in the first resurrection where the second death have no power. That's the death of all deaths. So at the very end, the books will be open. The books will be open at the very end. Let's talk about the second death here. We're going to wrap it up here. Let's read Revelation 20 and 11. Let's go.
And I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it.
Someone's asked, will Gentiles also be resurrected? Absolutely. Those who are in Christ. That's why it says that he took out from among the nations a people for his name. So he covered the Gentiles with his name so that they can have their part in the kingdom for what? For renouncing and denouncing the gods that bound them. Yes, they will be resurrected also. Let's read it. The 11th verse. Let's go.
And I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away.
Come on.
And there was found no place for them.
Come on.
And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were opened.
And the books were opened. Come on.
And another book was opened, which is the book of life.
Which is the book of life. So all mankind is going to be judged out of the word of God, the laws. And this is the capital punishment of God now, where there is no space for repentance. There is no space for repentance now. The books are open. Everyone that's born innocent is written in the book of life. Their names are there when you're sent into the earth. The actions in the earth, be it good or bad, if it's bad, your name fades from the book of life. That's why it says, be careful that your name be not blotted out of the book of life. Well, in order for it to be blotted out, it must have been written there in the beginning, before you were sent in the earth. It's the actions on earth that makes your name fades out of that one book in heaven. And if you're not in that book, the second death is your fate. That fate isn't just for the fallen angels. It's for those who followed them and sinned against the law of our God. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. Read.
And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works.
According to their works. Read.
And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them.
These are all the spirits, including Satan and all of those who were in what? The place of torment, hell. They all will go, and the people who follow them, in the state they were at death, will they be presented, because they didn't change. So imagine all of this look like the walking dead before the throne, ready to be thrown into the lake of fire, where the second death happens to destroy their spirit once and for all. Read.
And they were judged, every man according to their works.
Come on.
And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire.
Into the where?
Into the lake of fire.
And this is what?
This is the second death.
Folks, this death is worse than the one we experienced crossing over. It's the Babylonians and the Asians who came up with the lion concept from the devil, reincarnation. If you believe you come back again, folks, then what of this particular judgment at the very end? How can you come back again? It's all a lie. It tells us in the Bible, unto man is appointed once to die, then the judgment. So Christ, the second time when he returns, he will judge, because he only came once. So it was the Asians, the Babylonians, and the East Indians who came up with the reincarnation concept, so that people out there would believe that they'll have another chance after messing up the life the Most High gave them. Satan have lied to the world. We only get one of these. The only change that could happen happens while what? You're living, by repenting. That's the only born again you're going to get. There is no reincarnation. The Asians came up and the Babylonians came up with that mess to trick people into wasting life. And when you die and go over, you want to realize, man, I was tricked. Read the 15th verse.
And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
Was cast in to the lake of fire. And brothers and sisters, that's the capital punishment of God. See? And it comes around full circle to why God gave us a law. Eventually we'll be judged out of the law. And it tells us sorcerers, those who deal with witchcraft, those who deal with all types of sins, they're the people that's going to be thrown in the lake of fire with their father, the devil. So I hope, brothers and sisters, you've been edified and understand geopolitically how only the Bible can give us insight to what's going on in the earth. But above all, be of good cheer. Knowing is half the battle. Now we understand why they're doing what they're doing, speaking of Asians and others. And now we understand the judgment of our God that will soon come down on their people. That's right. Pharaoh couldn't escape. Neither will China. With that, we're going to say shalom. Thank you. That concludes our lesson for today. The capital punishment of God. The capital punishment of God, excuse me. And hey, there's a lot in here that quantifies all who our people are and why the enemies have conspired against us. Who are they? And now under Christ, we're protected by them. Knowing is half the battle. Anyone out there who stand to, in our political system today, stand to vote for the Asians replacing them and finishing the job they couldn't do under the cough. Folks, that means you're just participating in your own demise. Stand on the side of God. Fight against the dragon. With that, shalom. Again, June 25th, a brand new Hebrew and Bible Academy highlighting archaeology and history. We're going to do it like we've never done it before. Charts, all of that. I have a brand new studio we're going to be working in. Stand up. We're going to deal with green screens and everything. We're going to bring the whole dynamic of the academy on the next level. And guess what? Those who are in this academy, you've seen it before. How this thing has progressed into something way greater than any of us thought it could become. Well, we're taking it to the next level, and that wouldn't be possible without your help. And I'm asking you all, get in this academy, because you're not just doing yourself a favor, you're making it where what? Resources are accumulated to help others to receive what you have received. Okay? So if we have blessed you, through extension, blessed others. Okay? It doesn't cost that much to be a part of it. A matter of fact, if you were in the last academy, we'll give back. We'll give you 10% off. No problem at all. Okay? But still, tell a friend. Sponsor a friend. Get in this academy, folks, because we're going to be breaking down this Bible and bringing archaeology and history into it so that we're making scholars out of brothers and sisters who are learning under us. We'll have the records for you, the history, all of it to prove everything we're saying, to prove the Bible is real. The Bible lives. Okay? So with that, shalom. You'll have all the charts and all these others we're going to give you utterly free. We're going to make our own charts and all that so that you'll have the knowledge we're dealing with to be able to convey it to others around you. Be a part of this. You're helping the church grow and by extension, bringing forth this kingdom. With that, shalom. May the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up. Sin not. We will soon see Zion. HistoryTimes.org. Shalom. Thank you.
Praise the Most High.
And you know Shapala's going to be bringing that news, so. Shalom, Zion. To the Israelites and the Gentiles in Christ. Shalom.